timekeeping at the Swiss Week. We working hours from the hardware that we built, from the stations, the sport cards. Here at the Swiss Week we also do the timing service. Right? So we have a few new elements in the overall timing solution, which is why I think this might be of interest for organizers, for timekeepers, and for people with a general interest in technical solutions. All right. So about 2.5 years ago, the Swiss Week organizing committee approached us, asking if we would be potentially interested in providing the timekeeping service at the Swiss Week 2026, and we said yes. And they approached us with some particular requirements that they had. And I think these requirements are requirements that a lot of organizers have and a lot of events have. So, I mean, number one, if you organize an event, number one requirement or number one goal is that you have an excellent experience for the competitors, right? So specifically, you don't want to have an event of that size as the Swiss Week. You don't want to have waiting times. You want to have a steady flow of participants, of competitors. You don't want to have them waiting, lining up at the lift, and not at a readout, not anywhere, right? So that's number one. You also want to have these days, you want to have immediate online results, which is still more common these days, but maybe not so common everywhere. But yeah, that's the second requirement. Also very important, also from conversations we're having with organizers, I think in most countries, I would say, mostly volunteers is an issue. It's getting more and more difficult to find volunteers. So one other requirement was to have less volunteers for doing everything around timekeeping. The third point is they want to have a simple and robust overall solution. And so there are two points there. One is that you want to have more automated interfaces to everything around timekeeping, particular entries. So we want to have live entries during the day, and you don't want to need so many volunteers to do the changes of entries during the day. Can we ask? Yeah, please ask. Maybe we can ask them to be a little bit quieter. Another requirement is that the equipment should be able to be used outside, so you don't want to have to build tents and make everything waterproof and windproof just for the timing equipment, right? So you should be able to put outside in the sunlight, in the rain, in the storm, and it should keep working. And finally, the last important requirement was safety monitoring. Of course, for all events, but also particularly here at the Swiss Week, we have 3,000 to 4,000 participants. We are in the Alps. There can be thunderstorms. There can be very adverse conditions. So you have to make sure you have a grip on safety for your pedal. All right. So we built a timekeeping solution with a lot of new parts, I would say. And the most important parts, and I will go into more detail later, the most important part is we are using a new results software that we've been building over the last couple of years. We originally built it for enduro mountain bike races, and for I think 2 years now we're using it as orienteering. Then we have the terminals that you've all experienced today and the last 2 days, hopefully, if you're participating. So those are the check-in and the read-out terminals, that's the second part. We have the LTE modems, which we released last year. You might be familiar with them. We have actually quite a few of them in Switzerland. And we also have a few start tablets. I'll start with the LTE modems. I go through all the parts of this solution. The main selling point, the main interesting point about the modems is that they're really simple and really robust. Right? You switch them on, they go online, and they work. Right? They run for I think 24 to 30 hours, something in that range. And I think that's the main point, right? They buffer the punches if they go offline, so when they come back online, they will send the data that's been received in the time in between. And here at the Swiss Week, we had them at the start, at the finish, and on the course as well. Lastly, that's maybe a very technical detail for some of the technical experts, and if you're interested, ask me afterwards. But we are using a firmware released only last week, where you can switch off the individual channels for short-range radio transmission. That's again, if you're interested, ask me maybe afterwards. I can go into more detail. But essentially, this means you can make the short-range radio transmission a little bit more robust than just using one modem. You can use two modems, and this for the same control for extra robustness. Okay, the terminals are they are what they look like. I would say they are 3D printed, and they are. I would say I'm quite happy. They are quite nice. So essentially, we have this 3D printed housing. We put a BSM8 station inside. We put it. And that way we get a solution that's quite robust in weather conditions. I mean, I wouldn't put it underwater maybe, but it should be fine in storm and rain and so on. We use auto tablets, of course, so they're waterproof. Yeah, and that's it really. They need some sort of data connection, so either you put them on a Wi-Fi or we mostly use mobile internet here, right? Yeah, so these terminals also run the spotident result software. I will say a little bit more about this later, but essentially we have like a kiosk mode operation, and again, it's very simple to use, which is important, so it can be operated by the volunteers without any issues. The small detail is we have multi-language support. I'm not sure if you noticed, but it will greet you in the language that you're speaking based on your registration. Yeah, and if you're interested in terminals, yeah, get in touch afterwards and we can talk about them. Good. The main part really of our timing solution is the result software, and it doesn't really have a name yet. That's why it says result software. So we've been building this solution, as I said, over the last couple of years. It's built on a modern software stack. It runs the same software runs on Windows, Linux, and Android. It can potentially also run on iOS and on Mac. It has support for multiple nodes, which maybe in more plain language means you have kind of multiple laptops, multiple tablets. They all can get interconnected, and that's kind of illustrated by this wide-ranging diagram. So essentially, we usually have one node, the main node, running in the internet, in the cloud, and then we can sync additional nodes to the internet node. Right? So we have one node over here, and then this can again sync to this one. So essentially, what you get is you have all, let's say, 10 laptops, 10 tablets, and they all synchronize data with each other. If the connection goes down, if you unplug the network cable, if you lose internet, everything keeps working. The moment the connection comes back, everything gets synchronized. So that's, for me personally, having worked with some other solutions, that for me was really a game changer because you don't need to worry so much about connectivity, right? So this essentially the synchronization works really, really well. You don't need a database that you need to set up and that needs to run and that you need to monitor. All of the nodes, all of these PCs, all of these tablets have the full state of the event, right? So they're essentially automatic backups of each other. Each thing has the complete state of the event, all participants, all results, on all these PCs and all these tablets. Yeah, and it's a web-based solution, which means you can use it through a browser. So you can have this application, the results software, you can have it running on your PC. But if you only need to do simple things, you can also just open a browser and directly connect to the main node on the internet, for example, right? So if you just want to change some entries or you want to do some safety monitoring, you don't need to have a local copy running of the software. You can connect to any of the nodes in a web browser, on the phone, any phone, and you can work with that. Obviously, when you want to connect hardware, you want to print something, you want to read out chips, you need to have a local. You need to have to run the software running on the PC or on the tablet. Okay, so this summarizes everything I just said. Did you see I forgot anything? Yeah. Again, very robust, very simple to use. It's not available publicly yet, as you might have noticed. I will say something to that at the end of the presentation. So now I want to go into a little bit more detail about the, I call it the topology of our timing solution. Essentially this means all the different parts where timekeeping happens. So we have, maybe I can point here, also not so visible. Anyway, so we have the service desk, or the info desk, which you saw. So there we have there's one laptop running. We have the service desk for timing. So if you came to us because the category was wrong or start times were wrong or something, anything needs fixing, that's part of it. So then the main point is when you start, you go to the checkpoint, as you probably all did, and at the checkpoint we check whether you have the right card assigned and if you're actually on the right way, right? So usually if everything is okay, you get a green tick and it says okay, and the volunteers will let you go. If it's not correct, you get a red screen and you need to go back to the service desk and they probably will change your chip. I think the most common thing is you changed your SI card, right? So you change the chip, and then you can go again to the checkpoint and then you can pass. The other important role of the checkpoint is, of course, that we know who is out in the field, right? So we know they left the event center, we know they're on the way to the start. And we can see this in real time in our results software, right? So we know who's on the way. Then you go to the start. At the start we have a start tablet that you might have seen. We have our image ESD3 start clock, and then we have the start procedure. Then we have some modems on the course, so we get live data from the course. Most interesting for the speakers, so they can do a little bit of interesting commentary. And finally get to the finish. Again, on the finish we have the modem, so we know who is at the finish in real time. And after finish we have the readout terminals. Again, these readout terminals are connected to the cloud, and we have the data from the readout pretty much in real time, right? And one really big advantage is this all runs on battery, right? This can be outdoors, anywhere. And as you saw today, we had these readout terminals far, far away from the center, and everything worked without any issue, right? So that's a very, very big advantage. So with the readout, we know who's back from the race, right? Again, very important for safety reasons. Very good. Let's talk about a few more details. So the service desk changes to the entries are done at the service desk, and this is done in the TrackMax system. So the entries system used for the Swiss week is TrackMax, which is also a Swiss company. So entries changes are done there, or also new entries on the day are done in TrackMax. All changes to TrackMax are automatically synchronized to our software, and this happens pretty much again in real time. So as I said, for example, you changed your SI card number, you use a different SI card, so they can change it in TrackMax, and it goes to our system in a few seconds. And then you can again proceed to the checkpoint, and then you go to your race. All the modems on the course and in the start and the finish are sending the data to the coordinate center, which essentially serves as a IoT hub, Internet of Things hub. So all the data gets sent there, and then from center it flows into our software. So again, we have all the data from the course, usually in real time. Depends a little bit on the connectivity, but usually in real time. And then finally, as I already said, all the results software knows, all the tablets are online and directly connected to the cloud node, right? So all the data gets synchronized between all the different points close to real time. One interesting thing also is here we have the service desk timing is the front desk that you might have seen. That's usually 1 or 2 PCs, and then we have maybe 5 PCs in the back office, 3 to 5. And for example, here we have all these 7 PCs, let's say 6 PCs, also directly connected to the cloud instance, which means we have no local networking. At least in the past, for us, has been a pain point for bigger events. If you need to set up local networking, you cable everything together, we don't do that anymore, right? So we have everything directly connected to the internet. Setup becomes really simple. So you essentially need power, you need the Wi-Fi, you need to be connected to the internet, and that's it. Really, really simple. Very good. Yeah, so that's the, again, the overall solution. The one interesting part is also the start. We have these start tablets where you see the start time and the start list. For example, this node here, the Swiss week, is not connected to the internet, simply because we don't have mobile hotspots there, but it could be. So those are not synchronized in real time, so if there's a change in the start procedure, this would be reflected automatically. And then at the start, we have, for safety reasons, we actually have two data transmissions. We have one at the -4 at check and clear, right? When people punch, check and clear, we get the information in real time, and we have one at the start line check, right? So at least at start 1 and 2, right before you start to do the start line check, and again this information gets transmitted in real time, which means we have a really, really good idea where people are, which is really important, right? So we know if they left, if they went through a checkpoint, and then we know if they started. And if they didn't start, we can try to find out where they are. I think today we found a few people who had an ice cream and then went back down and didn't start. We can see this here, right? So that's important for safety reasons. Okay, so maybe you get a little bit of a better idea how this looks like. I put in like a screenshot slideshow. This is the kind of an overview of what the software roughly looks like at the moment. Here you see entries, and you see on the left-hand side we have the speaker support, we have presentation, we have the kiosk mode, we have chip venting for reading out chips, and so on and so forth, right? If you're interested in the details, come talk to us afterwards, and we can go through it in a little bit more detail. So that's entries. We have the presentations. You can configure a number of different screens. So here we have the two start screens, the scheduled start time screens. And one thing that's really powerful, at least in my opinion, is that we can configure the screens anywhere and they will update wherever we show them. Maybe not so interesting for the start time, but if you put results list somewhere, I can sit at the other end of the world and change the configuration of what we show on the start screen, and it will update on the screen. That's the start time screen that you've seen at one of the tablets at the start, right? So you see, this is not really when time, that's in the evening, but yeah, you see the real time and you see when people are supposed to start, right? Very good. Then we have some interesting views for the speakers. Here we're looking at the live control, so this is looking at the finish, as you can see, and we have some graphical highlighting so the speakers can more easily see what's changed recently and can talk about it. Right. We have the other screens as well. We have interim results with the live, with an overview of all the live data coming in. That's the speaker support. Coming to the safety section, we have a screen for unassigned cards, so we can try to figure out which cards have not been assigned to an athlete. So we need to find out who it is and where they are. That's the unassigned card screen. And finally, we have the athletes in the forest screen, which is very important and has been seen quite a bit of use towards the end of the race. So you see at the top, you see people that have been, I think, over 3 hours, right? Depends on configuration. So you can put the configuration, you can see who was over time, and you highlight them, right? So for safety monitoring, you see where they were last seen. 14 is one of the checkpoints. So those two guys who've been in the forest forever, they just passed the checkpoints and disappeared. And you can also see for the other ones, right? So you have a good feeling how many people are in the forest or on the field and for how long, right? And then you can try to find them. So in the last few days, we already had a handful of people who were quite late, and we started looking for them, right? Or the organizers started looking for them. Learning so far. So personally, for me, for our team, the infrastructure simplification has been quite significant, especially in the back office. No networking required really. It just takes a lot of work. We had so far, for the first 3 days, really smooth operation during the competition. I'm honestly a little bit surprised. This is a new solution. Always something goes wrong. It didn't, right? Pretty much everything worked without any issue. Really smooth during the day, right? During the competition. One thing that we saw is that the preparation time for the competition is still quite long. So usually that happens in the afternoon and evening after we come back from the competition center, right? We sit back here, we do the preparation. That still takes quite some effort, and we have some ideas how to improve it. For example, right now we need to touch all the tablets by hand and update configuration. That can be improved and should be improved. That takes some time with something like almost 20 tablets out in the field. That takes time. One other interesting thing is charging the equipment here is quite time critical. We get back around 5. The equipment for the next day gets picked up again at 8 usually. So it's only 3 hours for some equipment to charge. That's quite tight for the tablets, for example. Good mobile connectivity is a relatively strong requirement for our solution. It's not been a problem here at all because we are in a skiing area and there's really, really good mobile connectivity everywhere, pretty much, right? I think today Star 2 was the only place so far where connectivity was so-so. Yeah, it was not great, but apart from that, we had very good connectivity everywhere. If you're in an area where there's not so good connectivity, I mean, one solution is Starlink or similar solutions, right? So you essentially, if you want to have something like this, you can try to carry a Starlink to the readout area and have it connect to the satellites and get internet that way. One other thing that came to mind while we're working here is that more remote support will be an option in the future, meaning the timekeeping team can be smaller on site, and then some additional support comes from off-site, right, so remotely. So this obviously would help to streamline operations. Good, so what's next? Yeah, I already mentioned we want to improve for ourselves, for our team, preparation time before each competition. Maybe more interesting to you, we'll have the Orienteering app 2, the successor to the current Orienteering app that you might know from that you can run on Android phone, on Android tablet. Will be based on essentially this software results, this results software stack. Timeline is later this year, right? So still quite ambitious, but the goal is to have this Orienteering app 2 based on this results software I just talked about later this year. So this would immediately get us multi-device capabilities, live data support in the Orienteering app, and potentially also cloud connectivity. Very good. So now I have maybe 2 announcements. We have 2 new colors for TX, neon cherry and neon orange, and we will buy them. The Orienteering shop is still open, and starting next week you can also order them online. The pictures, I think the pictures don't convey the colors quite that well, but you can look at them here. Yeah, we already had a discussion. We cannot get rid of the old red because it's important in Switzerland. It's the Swiss red, right? So this will be an addition. The old red is not going away. Yeah. And the other, maybe a little bit more, more significant announcement I have is that we have the sport-in printout set BT coming this fall, more specifically in October. So what this is a readout station that connects wirelessly to a printer on the right-hand side, and that, of course, is aimed at trainings, right? So we've had a lot of feedback. We have our Orienteering app, and it can print on a Bluetooth printer, but we had a lot of feedback that for some applications that's too complicated, in schools, small trainings, so that's our answer. Yeah, so you have the, again, station that connects wirelessly to the printer, and it prints. And that's, again, one of the main focuses is simplicity, right? It should be that easy to use. And you can test this after the presentation. Just to give you some more details, the station, again, prints directly to the printer. The station itself can also connect via Bluetooth to a phone or to a PC. So this is quite interesting for some other use cases. For example, if you want to have a small competition running just on your phone, or just a single laptop, you don't have cables, that's a very nice solution. There's a nice side effect, it doesn't require drivers, which can simplify some use cases. Battery life for the reader will be 10 years. Introductory price until the end of the year for the station is €100, for the set is €190, with the printer and the station and some parts. And yeah, you can look at it now, it will come in October this year. We're good, and with that, I thank you for your attention, and please, if you have any questions, yeah, please ask me.
Before you go first, I'd ask allow me to add some sentences. Sportident is here in this village with 8 colleagues. In addition, they have ordered, a lady which takes care for food, for the food. Yeah. Sportident is to say made by volunteers. 7 out of these 8 also are running. Yeah. So this really as our sport is, and among the developers, I want to show here Thomas Scherer, Chief Developer. Yeah, Thomas Scherer, Chief Developer from Switzerland. This means this software has Swiss quality by birth. Other here, Burkhard, he's one of the founders of Sportident 25 years ago. Our manager for orienteering, this is Ute over there. And we also have here one of the younger colleagues here. Raise your hand, Hannes. Yeah. So, here, Burkhard, here is the managing director. As I just want to say, Sportident is a company of orienteers. Sportident is also not so small. It's nowadays about 30 employees, which is difficult to manage in every aspect. And the key developers are coming from different countries: Switzerland, Germany, Poland, Estonia. Not to say not easy to manage, but I have been in this sport for a whole life, and the companies like orienteering, everything is a little bit crazy to make these things. And I'm not here involved in this team, but I want to have the biggest respect what they are doing here this week. It's, you know, as an organizer of orienteering events, in the morning you are the first one, in the evening you are the latest one, and this is what happens here with these guys. So also thank you also and congratulations.
Good, thanks. Yeah, come over, have a look at the colors, and